The stars had always been silent. For thousands of years, the great alien empires believed they understood every corner of the galaxy. Their fleets stretched across countless systems. Their archives held knowledge gathered over millennia. To them, nothing was unknown. Nothing was dangerous anymore. But buried deep within the archives of the Zerathi Empire, hidden in forgotten shelves of old crystal records, was a story that most had dismissed as nonsense. A story about a species that once lived on a small blue planet, far away from the center of galactic power. A species called humans. The records were old. Some were cracked and fading. They spoke of wars unlike anything the empires could imagine. They described how the species fought with endless fury, even when they had no chance to win. How they adapted to every enemy, every weapon, every war. And most importantly, the records carry a warning, repeated again and again. Do not underestimate humanity. They are dangerous. If they rise again, the galaxy will tremble. But those words have been forgotten. The scholar, on the capital world of Zorath Prime, inside the tall, shining towers of the Grand Hall, a young alien scholar named Valen walked among shelves of neglected records. Valen was curious. He loved to search the oldest stories, the ones most scholars ignored. One day, as he brushed dust off an ancient crystal tablet, he read the words, humanity. At first, he thought it was a myth, something like the children's tales told in villages. But as he read more, the stories became darker. He saw descriptions of worlds that burned, fleets that vanished, empires that fell when they fought the species. The words shook him. He whispered to himself, if this is true, if they're still out there, then we are not as safe as we believe. The Council. Valen knew he had to tell the Council. The Grand Council of Zorath was made up of powerful leaders, each from a noble family. They were proud, arrogant, and certain of their own wisdom. They believed their empire was untouchable. Valen stood before them, holding the old record. His voice was steady, but his heart raced. Honored Council, he began, I bring you a discovery from the archives. These are records about a species once called humanity. The warnings say they were strong, adaptable, and dangerous. The records claim they were never defeated, only forgotten. If they survived, they could rise again. The council chamber was silent for a moment. Then laughter filled the hall. Humans, one of the elders mocked. Myths, old ghost stories. Another waved a hand dismissively. Scholar, you waste our time. The galaxy has no such species. They are extinct, if they ever existed at all. Valen tried again, but the records are clear. They describe battles where entire fleets were destroyed. They speak of humans fighting even when hope was gone. If these warnings are true... Enough, snapped the High Chancellor. His golden robes shimmered under the chamber lights. We rule half the galaxy. No species can threaten us. Not now. Not ever. Your warnings are nothing but superstition. The council laughed again. Some shook their heads in amusement. Others sneered at the young scholar. Valen lowered his eyes. He wanted to argue. He wanted to tell them they were making a mistake. But he knew their pride was too strong. The warnings would remain forgotten. Whispers in the shadows. That night, Valen sat alone in his quarters. The laughter of the council still rang in his ears. Why will they not listen? He whispered. Why do they refuse to see? He turned the crystal record over in his hands. The last line glowed faintly in the dark. They are not gone. They wait, and when they rise, none will be ready. A chill ran through him. Outside, the Empire celebrated its power. Starships moved across the skies. Cities glowed with endless lights. To everyone else, the galaxy was safe. But Valen could not sleep. He knew something was coming. The first signs. Weeks later, rumors began to spread among traders in the outer systems. Whispers of colonies destroyed. Fleets missing. Strange attacks no one could explain. At first, the council dismissed them as lies. Pirates, they said. Nothing unusual. But the reports grew. Each story spoke of the same thing. Enemies that fought with wild determination. Enemies that used weapons in ways no one expected. Enemies that refused to retreat. Valen's heart pounded when he heard the rumors. Could it be? Could the warnings be real? The forgotten becomes real. One night, the Grand Council received a message. A scout fleet had encountered a small human colony near the edge of known space. The message was broken, filled with static. Screams echoed in the background. Explosions rattled the signal. Then a final voice, desperate and afraid. "They are here. The humans are real. We cannot." The message cut off. Silence filled the council chamber. For the first time, no one laughed. The arrogance of the Empire. Yet even then, the leaders refused to admit their mistake. "They are just primitives," said one. "We will crush them." Another nodded. "Send a fleet. Show them what happens when they challenge the Zarathi Empire." The council voted, and soon a massive fleet was prepared. Thousands of ships, advanced weapons, endless soldiers. Valen watched from the shadows, his chest heavy with dread. He remembered the old words, "Do not underestimate humanity." But no one listened. The last warning. Before the fleet departed, Valen spoke once more to council. His voice shook, but he forced himself to speak. "You are making a mistake." The warnings were clear. Humanity cannot be fought like other species. They will adapt. They will endure. If you underestimate them, you will lose everything. The High Chancellor glared at him. "Scholar, if you value your position, you will be silent. We are the masters of this galaxy. Nothing can stand against us." Valen lowered his head. He felt helpless. He knew the truth, but no one believed. The forgotten warnings. And so, the great fleet left. The skies of Zorath Prime glowed as ships rose into the heavens, engines burning like fire. Crowds cheered. Leaders smiled. The Empire was confident, but deep inside the old archives, the crystal records remained. Their words glowed faintly, almost like a whisper in the dark. They laughed at the warnings. But when the humans return, fear will be their final truth. And so the story of humanity began again. The fleet of the Zarathi Empire glided through the stars like a wall of fire. Thousands of ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls glowing with blue light, their weapons armed. To the people of the Empire, it was a sign of power. To their leaders, it was proof that nothing could challenge them. But deep within the fleet, inside one of the smaller ships, fear grew quietly. The young scholar, Valen, had been forced to join the fleet as a translator and historian. The council had mocked him for his warnings, but they also wanted him close. "If these humans exist," one elder had sneered, "then you can watch when we crush them. You can see how wrong you were." Valen said nothing. He simply bowed his head, but inside his chest felt heavy. He remembered the words carved into the old records. "Do not underestimate humanity." The journey to the edge. For weeks, the fleet traveled toward the outer rim of known space. The stars grew dimmer, the systems fewer, the planets darker and colder. Few ships had ever traveled this far. Scouts had reported a human colony on a small world orbiting a red sun. It was said to be new, perhaps only a few generations old. To the council, it sounded like an easy target, a place to show their power. Primitives, the commander of the fleet scoffed. His name was High Admiral Kareth, a veteran of countless wars. His scales were silver, his eyes cold. "They will kneel the moment we arrive. We will take their world without a fight." The officers around him nodded, their confidence unshaken. Valen, standing in the shadows, felt his stomach twist. He wanted to speak, but he knew no one would listen. First contact. The fleet arrived at the edge of the human colony system. Sensors picked up a small world, wrapped in clouds and oceans. Artificial lights dotted the surface, evidence of life. The Admiral smiled. "There they are. Prepare the broadcast." Moments later, a booming message was sent across the system. It was written in simple galactic trade language, one almost every species understood. "This world now belongs to the Zarathi Empire. Surrender immediately. Bow to us, and you may live. Resist, and you will be destroyed." Silence followed. For a long time, there was no reply. The alien fleet hovered in orbit, their weapons armed. Some officers laughed. "Perhaps they do not even have the technology to answer," one said. But then a voice came. It was calm, steady, confident. This is a colony of humanity. We do not surrender. If you want this world, you will have to take it. But know this, when you come, we will fight you. And when we fight, we do not stop. The Admiral chuckled. Arrogant creatures. They think they can fight us. But Valen's blood ran cold. He recognized the tone. It was the same tone the old records had described. Calm, even in the face of death. The battle begins. The order was given. The first wave of Arathi ships descended toward the planet, their weapons raining fire upon the surface. Explosions lit up the skies. The oceans boiled. The ground shook. But then, something unexpected happened. Human ships rose from the planet's surface. They were smaller, older, and less advanced. Their metal looked rough, their design simple compared to the sleek Zarathi warships. Yet when the battle began, the humans fought like demons. They did not run. They did not hide. They launched themselves straight at the enemy, weaving between the larger ships, targeting weak spots, sacrificing their own vessels if it meant destroying one of the invaders. The Zarathi expected them to retreat. Instead, every destroyed human ship seemed to ignite more fury in the others. Valen watched from his station, his hands shaking. "It's true," he whispered. "The records were true." The turning point. At first, the Admiral dismissed the resistance. "Annoying insects," he growled. "Crush them." But the battle did not go as planned. The humans adapted quickly. They learned the weaknesses of the Zarathi weapons. They began targeting communication ships, blinding the fleet. They struck supply vessels, starving the larger warships of fuel and ammunition. The Empire's fleet, so confident at the start, suddenly found itself bleeding. One officer shouted across the bridge, "Admiral, we are losing more ships than expected. Their tactics..." Silence. Kara snapped. "They are nothing but primitives. They cannot win." But deep inside, doubt had begun to spread. Humanity's message. As the battle raged, a new broadcast filled the fleet's channels. This time, it was not a demand or a warning. It was a simple statement, spoken by a human commander whose face appeared on every screen. The man was scarred, his uniform torn, his eyes filled with fire. "We warned you. We are not weak. We are humanity. You may destroy our ships. You may burn our worlds. But we will never bow. Remember this day, because it is the day you learned what it means to fight us." The message ended, and across the alien fleet, silence reigned. Fear spreads. The Zarathi had come expecting an easy victory. Instead, they found themselves locked in a war they could not easily win. Every battle brought more losses. Every plan was broken by human adaptation. Valen watched the fear grow in the officers around him. The same men who had once laughed at the warnings now whispered in the shadows. Could the old stories be true? One asked. Are they really that dangerous? Another muttered. The Admiral remained stubborn, but even his voice grew colder, sharper, more uncertain. And Valen knew this was only the beginning. The first encounter should have been an easy victory. The Zarathi Empire had expected to erase the human colony in a single strike. Yet weeks later, the fleet returned home battered, humiliated, and whispering with fear. No official reports were released. The High Council ordered silence, claiming the humans were nothing more than stubborn savages. A minor disturbance, the Chancellor announced to the Empire. Nothing worth concern. But the soldiers who survived knew the truth. They spoke in low voices, in hidden corners, away from the ears of their superiors. And everywhere their word spread, so too did the first spark of fear. Whispers in the barracks of Zorath Prime. Young recruits listened to the veterans of the failed campaign. They fight like no other species, one scarred officer said, his voice trembling. You kill one, and 3 more appear, angrier than before. They don't run. They don't break. Even when their ships burn, they throw themselves at you. The recruits laughed nervously, thinking his story meant to frighten them. But the officer's eyes told another truth, eyes haunted, as if he still saw the humans charging at him across the stars. The scholar's warning. Valen, the scholar who had discovered the ancient records, had seen it all. He had watched the fleet falter, had seen the humans fight, had felt the terror that spread through the officers. Now, back on Zora Prime, he stood once more before the council. "You laughed at me before," he said softly, his hands gripping the old crystal record. "But now you've seen them. Humanity is real. The warnings are real. If we do not change our course, the Empire will pay a terrible price." But the council remained blind. One elder hissed, "Fear spreads lies." The fleet was careless, nothing more. The humans will fall in time. Another added, "We are the Empire. We cannot be defeated by primitives." The High Chancellor's voice was cold. "Scholar, if you speak of this again, you will lose your position. The Empire needs strength, not cowardice." Valen bowed his head, but his heart ached. They still refused to see the spreading rumors. Yet outside the council chambers, the Empire was changing. Traders told of human ships striking deep into supply routes. Small, quick vessels had disappeared into the dark after every raid. Merchants spoke of convoys vanishing, their escorts destroyed, their cargo lost. Refugees arrived from border colonies, whispering of human assaults. Brutal, fast, unstoppable. Each story was denied by the council, but the people listened, and the whispers grew louder. The humans are coming. The human pattern. In hidden meetings, the Empire strategists studied the new threat. They adapt to quickly, one commander admitted. Every time we change tactics, they change faster. They learn from their losses. They grow stronger with each battle. Another pointed to a map of the outer systems. They strike where we are weak. They do not waste ships in hopeless battles. They fight with purpose. They are not savages, they are predators. Silence followed those words. Predators. No one wanted to say it, but everyone felt it. The fear takes root. Fear is like a shadow. Once it appears, it spreads everywhere. On distant colonies, workers built defenses. Even when the council insisted there was no threat, farmers carried weapons to their fields. Merchants armed their ships, afraid of what might wait beyond the stars. In the academies, cadets whispered about the humans during training. "They are monsters," one said. "No, not monsters," another corrected. "Something worse. They are men who never stop fighting." And though the leaders tried to silence it, the fear only grew stronger. Humanity's defiance. Weeks later, another broadcast appeared across the Empire's channels. It was short, but it spread like fire. A human commander stood before a tattered flag, his face calm but fierce. "You thought we would bow. You thought we would break. But we are still here, and we will always be here. If you come again, we will fight again. Remember us. Remember humanity." The message lasted only seconds, but it was enough. In the great cities of the Empire, the people watched in silence. Some laughed nervously, pretending it was meaningless. But others felt the weight of those words. Humanity was not afraid. Humanity would not stop. And the fear grew. Cracks in the Empire. Inside the High Council, arguments erupted. "The humans are dangerous," one general admitted. "We must take them seriously." But others shouted him down. To admit fear is to admit weakness. The people must believe we are in control. The Chancellor slammed his staff against the floor. "This council will not be ruled by fear. The humans are a nuisance. Nothing more. We will end them in time." But outside those marble halls, the Empire was already trembling. Valen's realization. Valen stood on a balcony overlooking the shining towers of Zora Prime. From here, the city seemed calm, beautiful, and eternal. But he knew it was only an illusion. The records had warned of this. He remembered the words again. They rise through struggle. They become stronger through pain. To fight them is to create your own doom. And now he understood what it meant. Every battle against humanity only made them stronger. Every loss turned into knowledge. Every defeat sharpened their will. Valen whispered to the wind, "The rise of fear is not just in us. It is their weapon. They will use our fear against us." The rise of fear. And so it began. The Empire, once proud and unshaken, now lived with shadow in its heart. The people whispered. The soldiers doubted. The leaders argued. The fear of humanity was spreading like fire in dry grass. The forgotten warnings were no longer forgotten. They were alive, echoing through every mind, in every corner of the empire. And far away, in the dark reaches of space, the humans prepared for what was to come. The Zarathi Empire had lived in illusion for centuries. They believed they were unbreakable, that no species could challenge their rule. Their fleets stretched across the stars, their armies stood on countless worlds, and their council declared them eternal. But illusions are fragile things, and with each encounter against humanity, cracks began to form. The failing campaign. The Empire launched a second campaign, larger than the first. Hundreds of ships, thousands of soldiers, armed with the newest weapons. The High Chancellor promised the people that this time, the humans would be crushed forever. The fleets moved into human space, burning colonies, destroying settlements. For a moment, the illusion of control returned. Crowds cheered on the capital, believing victory was certain. But then the humans struck back. They did not fight what the Empire expected. They avoided strongholds, dodged fleets, and instead attacked where the Empire was weakest. Supply lines burned. Fuel depots vanished. Communication hubs fell silent. The Empire's fleets suddenly found themselves starving in the dark. Ships that arrived with pride now drifted helplessly, powerless, and surrounded. The humans came then, striking with precision, tearing apart the stranded fleets one by one. What was meant to be a grand victory became another humiliation. The fear turned to panic. News could no longer be hidden. Entire sectors whispered of human victories. Families of soldiers asked questions the council could not answer. On border worlds, governors begged for more defenses. On trade routes, merchants refused to travel. In the streets of Zorth Prime, the whispers became shouts. The council lies. The humans are winning. For the first time in living memory, the Empire's people felt something they had never known before. Panic. The scholar's voice. Valen watched it unfold with sorrow. He had tried to warn them. He had begged the council to listen. Now, standing once more in the chamber, he raised the old record high above his head. "Do you see it now?" he cried. His voice echoed through the grand hall. The warnings were true. Humanity cannot be fought like this. You call them savages, but they are more dangerous than any empire before us. Every time you strike, you only make them stronger. The elders glared at him. Some shouted for silence, but others, for the first time, looked uneasy. One counselor muttered, "What if he is right? What if the humans truly cannot be broken?" The High Chancellor slammed his staff on the floor. "Enough! Fear has infected this chamber. We are the Empire. We do not bow to myths." But even as he spoke, doubt filled his eyes. The human advance. The humans no longer hit on their colonies. They began moving outward, pushing into systems the Empire had ruled for centuries. Their fleets were still smaller, their weapons still less advanced, but they fought with a fury the Empire could not match. Every victory gave them new weapons, stolen from captured ships. Every defeat taught them new tactics. The humans were no longer defending. They were advancing, and the Empire was falling back. The shattered pride. High Admiral Kareth, once so confident, now stood in defeat. His fleets were broken. His voice trembled when he addressed the council. "They do not fight like others," he admitted. "They fight like fire. They spread, they consume, and they never stop. We have lost more ships than we can replace. Our soldiers fear them more than death itself." The council chamber fell silent. Pride had shattered. For centuries, the Empire believed itself untouchable. Now, they realized the truth. They were no longer the hunters. They were the prey, the message that broke the illusion. Then came the broadcast that shattered the last of their illusions. Across every channel, every world, every ship of the Empire, a human voice spoke. Calm, cold, and certain. You thought yourselves eternal. You believed no one could touch you. But your fleets burn, your worlds fall, and your people know the truth. The voice paused, as if to let the fear sink in. We are humanity. You ignored the warnings. Now you live them. We will not stop. We will never bow. And soon You will remember us in fear. The broadcast ended. The empire froze. Leaders trembled. Citizens wept. Soldiers stared at one another with haunted eyes. The illusion of eternal power was gone, shattered forever. The scholar's reflection. That night, Valen walked alone to the city of Zorath Prime. The towers still shone, the streets still bustled, but he could feel the fear in every step of the people. The illusion had broken. The Empire knew the truth now, even if the Council still denied it. He remembered the final line of the old crystal record. They laughed at the warnings, but fear will be their truth. And he knew the time had come. The age of the Zorathi Empire was ending. The age of humanity was beginning. The Zorathi Empire had stood for thousands of years. Its fleets had ruled the stars. Its armies had crushed countless rivals. Its council had spoken with absolute authority. But now, in every corner of the galaxy, a new name spread in whispers and in fear. Humanity, the last stand. The Empire gathered its final strength. A grand armada, the largest fleet ever assembled, was ordered to hold the borders against the advancing humans. On the bridge of the flagship, High Admiral Kara stood tall, but his scales had lost their shine. His voice no longer carried confidence, only desperation. "This is our last chance," he told his officers. "If we fail here, the Empire itself will fall." No one cheered. No one smiled. The soldiers only nodded, silent, their eyes filled with dread. Valen stood among them, forced once again to witness history unfold. He could feel the tension in the air, the weight of fear pressing on every mind. The armada moved into position. Thousands of ships stretched across the void, waiting for the humans to arrive. And then they came, the human arrival. At first, it was only a handful of ships, small, fast, crude compared to the sleek warships of the Empire. But behind them came more, and more, until the stars themselves seemed to move, filled with countless human vessels. They were not as advanced. They were not as polished. But they burned with something the Empire had never known, unyielding determination. The human commander's voice echoed across the channels. "You thought fear would break us, but fear is our fuel. You thought we would kneel, but we only rise higher. Today, you will learn the final truth of humanity." The battle began. The battle without end. The Zorathi unleashed everything. Beams of energy cut through space. Planet-killer weapons roared. Their ships moved with precision, striking hard and fast. But the humans did not falter. Every time a ship was destroyed, two more surged forward. Every time a formation was broken, humans adapted and struck back. They fought like the old records had warned. They fought as if death itself was nothing. On the flagship, Kara shouted orders, his voice breaking with panic. "Hold the line. Do not give ground." But it was useless. The humans pushed deeper, tearing holes in the Empire's defenses. One officer whispered what everyone already knew. "We are losing." The collapse. Hours turned into days. The great armada, once proud and invincible, shattered under the endless human assault. Ships burned. Commanders fell silent. Worlds that once cheered the Empire now screamed in terror as human fleets drew near. On Zorath Prime, the council chamber was chaos. Elders shouted, blamed one another, demanded impossible solutions. One finally broke down, his voice shaking. "We cannot stop them. We cannot fight them. The humans are coming, and there is nothing we can do." The High Chancellor slammed his staff, but even he trembled. The illusion of power was gone. Humanity's final word. Then came the broadcast that ended it all. Every screen, every communication channel, every planet of the Empire lit up with the image of a human commander. His armor was scarred, his face worn, but his eyes burned with fire. "We did not seek this war. You came to our worlds. You burned our homes. You thought we would break. But we are humanity." The voice grew stronger, echoing across billions of ears. "We endure. We rise. We fight. And when others laugh at warnings, we become their final truth. You thought yourselves eternal. But today, you remember us, not in victory, but in fear." The message ended, and silence fell across the Empire. The aftermath. The Zarathi fleets lay in ruins. Their world was shattered. Their council was broken. Everywhere, their people whispered the same thing. The humans had won. But it was not just a victory of ships and soldiers. It was a victory of spirit. The Empire had learned the truth too late. The humans could not be stopped, because every battle only made them stronger. Fear had become reality. The scholar's reflection. Valen walked once more through the empty archives of Zorith Prime. Dust fell from the shelves. The once proud city now silent with despair. He held the old crystal record, the one he had found so long ago. The words glowed faintly. Do not underestimate humanity. They will rise. They will endure. And they will make you fear. Tears filled his eyes. He whispered. They laughed at the warnings. But the warnings were true. Humanity is the final truth. He placed the record back on the shelf. It no longer felt like a warning. It felt like prophecy fulfilled. The final truth. And so the galaxy changed forever. The Zarathi Empire, once eternal, had fallen, and at its heart was a single truth that echoed through every star, every world, every whisper of history. Humanity does not stop. Humanity does not bow. Humanity becomes a fear of those who mock them. The final truth had been written in fire and blood, and the galaxy would never forget it.